Hey everyone, this is Car Ray Rob, where I'm Ray.
And I'm Rob, and we want to welcome you to a brand new episode of Hello Movies, My Old Friend. Hello, movies. Hello, movies. Hello, movies. My old friend.
Welcome back everyone to another episode of Hello Movies, My Old Friend. Before we get going, Rob, you want to remind everybody what we're trying to do with this podcast?
Absolutely. On Hello Movies, My Old Friend, Ray and I, we revisit old classics that we think possibly or did define our younger years, but we can't necessarily remember why.
Yeah, we're not sure if they're any good.
Exactly. And we have not had the best track record at times.
We found a lot of movies that have disappointed us as we've circled back to them.
Yeah, and but a lot that we have also loved. It's what has been a fun journey.
Yes, it's been really cool. Some movies we find that we like more as adults maybe than we even did as a kid because we can see it in a completely different light.
Exactly. That is absolutely true. We've definitely had some of that. And today, I think could possibly be one of those, because I feel like the movie that we are discussing today was maybe comedy more built for adults.
Sure.
You know, especially when we were watching it, and could maybe resonate with us more today than it did then. And that is because we are revisiting the 1996 dark comedy Joe's Apartment.
Now, this movie I probably haven't seen in almost 30 years.
Well, and that, you know what, that's a really good point that you make that point, because just yesterday was the 30th anniversary of the release of Joe's Apartment.
Boy, you have impeccable timing picking this movie.
I know. It came out of nowhere, and man, I am so glad it did, because I remember this movie being interesting, to say the least.
I'll say that.
You know what I mean? Like, this is a movie that I feel like I kind of remember my feelings about it, but I also don't at the same time, because it's more of like a visual memory that I have for this movie.
Like cockroaches.
The cockroaches. So yes, it's about a man who lives in an apartment that is overrun with cockroaches, and they sing and they dance and they talk to him. And yeah, it was an MTV movie.
Right. And that was like, it's funny now, I think, like, especially thinking MTV 30 years later. Because like MTV in the mid-90s, there was like a little bad boy to their movies. Like,
well, this is actually their very first movie too.
Yeah, well,
so
I should say even just
so that's even another added layer to it. So this is when they were still trying to figure out who the hell they were as a production company, outside of just music television.
Exactly. And now they're really, is it even still a thing? Like MTV doesn't do music anymore. They don't do edgy show/comedy. It's just kind of, I don't know. I think it's completely lost all its luster.
Yeah, no, I mean that's 100% true. But this starred Jerry O'Connell. In the lead role. I remember that, and like I said, he was Joe. It moves into
his
the
apartment,
right? And I don't remember why he's living there. I don't remember if he's just a schlub. That's a schlub and a slob together. It's a schlob.
We all knew what you meant.
Which is why his whole apartment is overrun with bugs, or if he's had to move in for a specific reason. Exactly. I do not remember why, but with a tagline like "sex, bugs, and rock and roll," I mean, I feel like
that's how you sell a movie.
Exactly, that's how you sell a movie. But like I said, I'm curious to revisit this movie to see if the comedy resonates with me today, because
even the effects.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that, but yeah, having the dancing bugs, in a world where like CGI was really the thing. No. So yeah, that's a really good point.
Can't even tell you what they used, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. So that I think it's going to be a fun experience.
There's a lot to revisit.
I think this movie is going to be a lot of fun to kind of rekindle, I guess,
possibly,
this long lost memory.
Well, let's go do that. If you guys haven't seen Joe's Apartment in almost exactly 30 years, take this opportunity to do so. Pause the podcast, check it out. When you're done, come back and listen to me and Rob's take and see if we think Joe's Apartment still holds up.
Ray and Rob are currently watching the film. You may be also watching the film. If you're not, then you're listening to me say that Ray and Rob are watching the film. They'll be right back when they're done watching the film.
All right, everyone, we are back from Joe's apartment.
You sound like a cockroach.
I wish I had so many more voices because then we could have the whole chorus going.
Yeah, well, I'm not chiming in
that?
here, so you have to find another cockroach for your little duet here. But
Yeah, but we are back.
We
from
are
Joe's
back
apartment.
from watching Joe's Apartment, and definitely a lot of things I didn't remember.
Yeah,
Some things, probably glad I didn't necessarily remember it.
it's a movie, right?
I don't know if this is a movie. I don't know if this is a movie, but I do think there's some things in there that make sense for what it is. I think that's maybe what will be fun to talk about. But you know, first of all, I think like to me, I guess my gut reaction, like just having not watched or just having gotten done watching this, is like it doesn't feel like a movie to me as much as it feels like they were trying to show off that they could do some special effects pretty well and for the time, and they were just built a plot around that kind of thing. It doesn't like necessarily hold up a lot of things you'd want a movie to hold up doing, but like you do have to remember this is MTV's first shot at this.
Yeah, I think that's really the hitting the nail on the head is that it's MTV's Productions' very first feature film, and you're right, they needed to show two things specifically. One, their prowess as filmmakers, as a production company, that they could produce actual films that could be theatrically released, and the special effects were a big part of that. You know what I mean, like showing what they could do as a company, and we could sit here and nitpick, yes, and I'm sure we will a little bit as we talk, as far as the special effects go, whether they hold up, whether they don't. But, it's actually not, I don't think they're terrible.
They're not.
For the time.
They're not. I bet at the time this was released, I think they were probably really good. And I think that's what I remember liking most about it when I was younger. I think the cockroaches look fine. I think the cockroaches, for the most part, look fine now. It's just that it's a cockroach. You know what I mean? Like I've seen Thanos destroy a moon and throw it at somebody. Now just being impressed by a tiny cockroach, that just doesn't move the meter anymore. So that it doesn't,
Fair.
You know what I mean? So it doesn't it's not impressive. So like the thing you built this movie around isn't impressive anymore. So it does detract from what the movie, because that's so much what the movie was about.
I mean, and that's true, and that is the narrative hook, if you will, of the movie are the cockroaches. As much as Joe is the movie is about Joe, the cockroaches
Joe
are what
sucks.
Right? I mean, he kind of does, but that's what they're selling it
you're right,
on.
You're right.
You know what I mean? And to be fair, I don't know if you know this, but the graphics engine that they used to make the cockroaches is the same one that they used on Terminator 2 and Jurassic Park.
Yeah, I'm saying I think the graphics were fine then. Like I'm not saying they don't hold up. I'm just saying it's just not an impressive feat anymore. You know what I mean? Because cockroaches are so small. And I mean, 60% of their special effects were like cockroaches hiding in things, and so they're just like moving a shirt with a stick. You know what I mean? Like. So, I mean, which is practical and makes a ton of sense. I'm not bashing that idea. It's, really smart as a filmmaker to save pennies when you can, especially CGI back then. But I'm just saying the CGI is good. It's not impressive anymore. So it's not gonna make the movie stand out.
Right. And then obviously, and even this rings true even today, which a lot of people could complain about, and we do as well. Is that, you need that narrative underneath of it. To hold up those special effects, you know what I mean? They need to enhance the narrative, and there's not much of a narrative in this movie.
Yeah, like it's so thin.
Yeah, and I know it's based on a short, so I know that's kind of part of it. So I think that kind of it had a kernel of an idea, and they're like, well, let's just turn this into a feature length movie, and it almost feels like. An extended music video in some ways. Not that it's like shot like a music video per se, but it is very much geared around these very specific visuals as opposed to a narrative of any real sort.
Yeah, and even like I kind of found the cockroaches singing parts to be a little annoying because they weren't like really building to anything. They weren't necessarily like didn't necessarily make sense. They were just there to be there.
Yeah.
Again, to kind of show off what they could do. So, you know, well, I don't know, whatever, about that, about like that kind of like that plot device of, that, speaking of music videos and stuff, but, and the characters are a little thin too, but,
Yes. Yes,
they're
very
thin. Like,
much so.
I don't really, yeah, they're thin. But I don't want to just bash the movie, because I do think there are kernels of things they do in there that are fun and smart.
Yeah.
They're just sporadic, I guess.
Yeah, well, and again, like it has the very basic building blocks of a narrative. It has a hero, it has a villain, and it has, certain weaknesses and needs, I guess. But even those obviously ring relatively hollow, I feel like, with Joe, because it's like he's come to the big city, he is down on his luck. But he's a college educated guy. He's trying to get a job, and he is trying, to get a job, and
He's
he ends
not
up
a
finding
turd.
right, and finding housing, obviously a major issue still to this day, and he ends up in this rent controlled apartment, and there's not really
steals it from a dead woman, kind of.
kind of, but she probably would have been cool with it in the end.
She probably would have.
I
She had a
think
choice,
so. Right? Exactly. But but he's a slob, I guess. Which I guess that could be kind of a some sort of a I guess
a weakness that
not
it could build
it's a
upon.
weakness. It is a weakness, but maybe more of like a a representation, if you will, of the people at the time, that age group at the time. You know what I mean? And we'll talk about the second thing that this movie was trying to do in a minute, and it has to do with this.
Yeah.
But you brought up a good point about it being some kind of a narrative weakness and need, and it never is really for him.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not like he gets to a point where it's like, I'm not gonna be a slob anymore.
Right.
Like he basically
So
just moves in with Lily.
Yeah, I
want. He gets a rich girlfriend and it's good to go.
He's like, hey, I know you came over. You got attacked by cockroaches in my apartment. My solution to that is let's move into your apartment, not like actually improve myself.
Yeah.
Let me stay the same person but live with you.
Right.
Which, hey, if
and
you can do it,
move all my roach friends in too.
Yeah, if you can get it in a relationship, sure, do that. But as for a movie, you'd like to have seen Joe be like, I'm going to change my ways. Like, he could clean the apartment and still have the cockroaches live there. He could feed them. The cockroaches don't need filth. They just need food like anybody else.
They believe they need it, which is why they like him so much, because he is a filthy guy. He doesn't clean up anything, and they're like, we like you because of that.
I feel like that's a misrepresentation of cockroaches. I feel that's just pleading.
That's profiling.
Yeah, it's definitely
profiling is wrong.
So I think the cockroach community deserved better.
Yeah. No, you know what? You're right. You are absolutely right. Cockroaches are getting a bad name with this movie.
They really are.
But let's talk about the second thing that MTV was trying to do with this movie. And again, when you're making these movies, you got to show you have the ability to make a movie. But more importantly is you need to hit your audience to sell the movie.
Sure.
And I think that was the other thing that MTV was really trying to show that they could do with Joe's Apartment, is reach their target audience, which is that Gen X, kind of, mid-20s viewer who is into that kind of goofy, off the wall kind of humor, because obviously by 96 a lot of different things had come along that were very much into this direction, whether it was like a Beavis and Butthead situation, which was their second feature film that they made, is Beavis and Butthead Do America. In fact, I think they went into development at the same time. I completely agree. But reaching that audience, and you could tell that they were very much on brand through a lot of this movie. There's a lot of music stuff in there. The soundtrack isn't that banging, to be perfectly honest. Like, I felt like it was kind of like, it's fine. Like, there's a couple good songs, but like overall, I would have expected more. But the production design element of it, you got the band posters on the wall. There's like a Pearl Jam Soundgarden poster, and he's wearing White Zombie t-shirts and White Zombie hats and like all of this stuff, which was White Zombie was a big part of Beavis and Butthead Do America. They have a whole animated section that Rob Zombie did. So it's like they know their audience in that regard.
Yeah.
And it's like they're trying to tap into that kind of almost stoner-esque type humor, that almost, somewhat nihilistic humor, but I have a thought about that too. But go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. I think to me that's the stuff that does kind of work in this movie the best, but they're like just blips. Like a lot of like the background stuff when he's working through the city, I think is kind of has like it's a funny joke, but it has some meaning behind it. Like when he's walking down the street and there's a guy that just starts shooting down an alley. Then he walks a little farther. Then you see the cops coming and shooting at him. Like I think them like it's kind of speaking about crime in New York City at the time. That it was
Sure.
rampant and
Right,
like
yeah.
in your face and stuff. And it's funny that he's just walking by that. And even when he meets Walter, the guy who is just a jerk.
Yeah, kind of performance
Yeah.
artist, which again kind of goes nowhere really.
Yeah, except he sets Joe up kind of to look like a fool as a drummer, but
Yeah.
like Joe also doesn't know how to play drums, so don't join a band and
Right.
do a solo when you don't know how to play drums. But anyway, like finding Walter like as a performance artist who's been laying on the ground dead and bleeding, and he said this, people have been walking by him for 2 days and change.
Right.
I kind of think that's funny. I kind of think that's a funny little like perspective on human nature, or at least if not factual one, but a fictional one. But so that those kind of little sporadic jokes and stuff I think work. But the problem is those are just background stuff. It's not really jokes or humor coming from the lead characters. But I do think those jokes are targeted at that audience too that you mentioned. Like I think those are kind of that nihilistic joke, kind of jokes or perception on humanity that is maybe feeding into that target audience.
I agree, and that's kind of what I brought up earlier about that kind of nihilistic
Yeah.
element to it, and in that idea of everything kind of sucks. When he's trying to, he's in this apartment, he's trying to get some help and all of this stuff, and the city office can't help him. It's like a dead end. Everybody doesn't care. Nobody wants to be there.
Right.
Like you said, when you're with Walter on the street, like, oh, I've been laying here for 2 days or whatever, and nobody's walked by me to, kind of help,
Yeah.
exactly, or even acknowledge that I'm there. Not spitting doesn't
Spitting
count.
doesn't count.
Spitting doesn't count. And so I feel like in that regard, yes, like there is a lot of that in this movie that is kind of trying to hit that Gen X audience that I do feel like at this point, that's kind of how they saw themselves and how MTV saw them,
Sure.
and everything sucks. Nobody cares about us. This is just, we're going to inherit garbage, that kind of stuff. But one thing about this movie that really did kind of take me by surprise that I did not necessarily remember, but I was kind of taken aback by, especially knowing MTV made this movie and the audience that they were making it for, is there is a lot of optimism by the end of this movie.
Yeah, there is some glimmers in there. I think they are kind of maybe they've attracted the target audience. They've spoken to this target audience, but they're also trying to give a message to the target audience that there is hope. Not everything has to suck forever.
Exactly, and I mean they even they have the whole thing where he's
collecting mud pies,
right? Collecting shit, and they have a whole line in there about how funny thing about shit is good things tend to grow out of it.
Yeah, spoken from a cockroach. How poetic.
Right, exactly, and that's the kind of stuff it's right there. It's not buried or anything. And Lily is a very optimistic character, where she's like, she wants to build this garden. She's very much like trying to help the community and all of this stuff. And then her father's a kind of set up to be the big villain. Yeah, set up to be the big villain, and kind of is because he's the one trying to drive everybody out of the building so that they can make the prison. But his turn at the end is basically just pointless. You know what I mean? Like but from a narrative. So it's narratively it's stupid. It makes no sense. There's no reason why he was like, oh, this garden's great now. And
I'm a capitalist, but I'm going to stop.
Right.
I'm not going to build a private prison.
Right, exactly.
Because of a garden.
Because of a garden. But to have that happen at all is that optimism that I talked about. Having this guy that's like this capitalistic kind of guy who's, closetly a pervert, or whatever, that, they're trying to like, or at least insinuating that he's some kind of like closeted pervert, which, whatever, hoots their own. But like, and to him to have this kind of, judgment of other people, which, we see constantly to this day.
Sure.
But to have that turn at the end really does feed that optimism. Now, again, narratively, it makes no sense, really, as far as that wasn't earned in any way. Right, it didn't earn it in any real way, but it took me by surprise how optimistic a lot of this movie was.
Yeah, and that's like you said, that's Lily's whole deal. Like she is this optimistic person. She can see the best. She thinks that the community is going to revolve or like kind of get built up around her in this garden, and then she's kind of broken down in the movie. But when the garden gets destroyed, did they ever show who destroyed the garden?
It was the two goon guys.
It was the
yeah.
oh yeah. They had the
showed them, they had, like,
flamethrowers.
the,
Yeah, they showed
the,
it after.
the
Yeah.
torch, with
Yeah,
them.
who I guess they kind of turn into the villains, like the main villains, and or like
Sure.
their boss. He was like, kill that person, and then the cockroaches drop him down the sewer. So,
Yeah,
but yeah,
if you want to say there's a villain, I guess that's it.
I guess, but it's like, all right, he's the main villains in 2 scenes, I guess, but
Right.
whatever. But anyway, yeah. So Lily is broken down, and she almost gives up. But like we said, there's those moments of hope where the cockroaches and Joe come together to fix everything that made Lily upset, and she kind of gets that second shot at like being happy and seeing her garden. So yeah.
I mean, if anybody has an arc in this movie, it's her. Like, Lily is really the only character I feel like that has an arc, because she starts out as an optimist, gets broken down, and then like
wants to quit,
right, and then finds her spark again by the end of the movie. You know, so I think that's kind of a weird element of this movie, is like Joe's the main character, but Lily's the one with the arc.
Yeah, I feel like we've kind of talked about that in some movies where like the secondary characters get more like better stuff to do than the primary characters. But, and that's, I guess, it kind of feels weird to nitpick a movie like this, but it's like, if you do want this movie to be successful, you do need Joe to have to do something to earn it. And like, he doesn't do anything to like make Lily feel better. Like, it was all the cockroaches. Like, they did everything. Joe didn't even think of rebuilding the garden. Like, you know what I mean?
He's basically a prop in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, more or less. Like, if you really want to think about it, he's just a kind of a prop. And which kind of sucks, because I like Jerry O'Connell.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, obviously I've loved him since Stand By Me.
Sure.
So, and he was a more round young man than he grew up to be. So good for him. Good for him.
Yeah, he just didn't get anything to really bite on in this movie.
No, nothing at all.
Except cockroaches. He did have a cockroach in his mouth
a
at one
couple
point.
of them, actually.
It didn't freak him out that bad, which I had a hard time.
Well, when you're living
too.
with that many, it's almost expected. If you don't feel like you don't eat a cockroach at some point, like, it's just
if there's 40,000, it's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen. But and it's interesting how they kind of work in some interesting cameos. We've got I don't even know if you know this. So there's a lot of voices.
I probably did.
I don't. I bet you don't. Like, there's a lot of the interesting people that are cockroach voices. So Dave Chappelle is in this movie. Tim Blake Nelson is in this movie.
No.
B.D. Wong is in this movie.
No.
They're all cockroach voices. And then obviously Billy West from Futurama fame is Ralph, the main cockroach, which he's pretty, he's in the credits.
And I think that's one thing they could have done better too, is like, maybe make 3 or 4 cockroaches stand out in some way, like be recognizable in some way.
Yeah.
And like make they're voiced by all these different people, but if you told me they're all voiced by the same person, I wouldn't have been shocked. Like, maybe because they're too squeaky, but like they all kind of sound like they're the same voice. So I feel like that's kind of a waste to like be paying Dave Chappelle. I don't know if Dave Chappelle, how big he was in '96, but like he had to be up and coming.
Sure, definitely up and coming.
And like to have his voice be unrecognizable seems weird.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that.
But it would have been so much cooler if some of these cockroaches did have some different personalities that Joe could have like attached to.
Yeah. And I think that's true. I get it. There's 40,000. You're not going to give all 40,000 a personality. But yeah, like, give a handful and but they really gravitated towards Ralph as being the singular roach that was kind of the main.
The leader, but like I still couldn't like, did he look different from the other ones in any way? No, they all looked the same.
It was all the voice. Once you heard the voice, that's how you would know. But there is some other great cameos. You've got Sandra Denton, who is known as professionally as Peppa from Salt and Peppa.
Okay.
She is Blank.
Okay.
Don Ho.
Is that Lily's friend?
What? Yes. Yeah. Lily's friend at the city. Don Ho is in this movie because he is Alberto Bianco, the main bad guy. Moby is the DJ in the club.
Oh.
So you got Moby in there, and Bam Bam Bigelow.
Bam Bam Bigelow, I did notice.
Boss,
he was one of the guys who said like you're fired or something. He got one of the quick bosses that fired him. I know one of the guys from Sopranos was like one of the apartment guys. Like the third apartment he went to that he couldn't afford was one of those main dudes from The Sopranos. I cannot think of his name. I'm sorry. But just kind of to the point of there were a bunch of kind of
Vincent Pastore.
There we go.
Vincent Pastore.
Yeah, so there were a bunch of people in this movie.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and I think that that's kind of again maybe another element of this movie for MTV as well is like who can they get to be in their movies,
Sure.
and especially for being on the ground floor, maybe some of these people either they were up and coming, like a Dave Chappelle or something like that, I'm sure he was doing stand up at this point, but BD Wong had already been in Father of the Bride at this
Yeah.
point. He had already been in Jurassic Park at this point. So I think that is interesting for him to kind of do a voice role that's basically uncredited.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they were getting people to say stuff.
Yeah. Well, so you know how much they made this movie for?
No.
$13 million.
13. That's a lot, actually.
For '96, that's what I said.
Yeah.
When I looked it up, I'm like,
I mean, we
13 million.
We just had Obsession for 1 million
Right.
come out. Do you know how much money this movie made?
4.6.
Oh, so it bombed.
It bombed. It was a major bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah. No, it would have. Yeah. I mean, but again, they rebounded with Beavis and Butthead Do America.
Yeah.
But to have this kind of be your first outing for that price point feels rough.
Yeah.
And
And maybe that is speaking like maybe they try too hard to just hit one audience.
that's true. I mean, but I mean, you got to think like just Beavis and Butthead Do America hit any audience outside of Gen X.
Well,
Or us elder millennial,
or it hit it
types.
harder, I
Zennials.
guess.
We're Zennials, I
Yeah.
think is what they call us.
or Beavis and Butthead hit it harder. I don't know, but even though like Beavis and Butthead it may be an MTV movie, but like it was its own thing.
It was its own thing
You
by
know,
then.
it was
That's
its own
totally fair.
device.
It's not like it's a brand new thing that they're like, oh, we're gonna,
Yeah.
Nobody's ever seen Beavis and Butthead before. This is how we're introducing Beavis and Butthead to the world, and this is it. But
Yeah.
that's what Joe's Apartment absolutely was. And then it's not necessarily surprising that it did bomb. Again, kind of seeing how the whole thing kind of plays out. It's not shocking, but like I said, for that price point, that it had to hurt.
Yeah, it's not going to get this is not a movie that would have got a lot, like great word of mouth after the opening weekend, and was going to start like people are going to start flooding the theaters. Like the word of mouth probably was going to not speak it up that great, and then it was going to flounder, which is apparently what it did.
For sure.
So Rob, let me ask you this. I'm going to make you do some research. I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
I hope you don't mind. So we're kind of we just kind of said like financially this movie did not do great. We don't think it it's not that good of a movie overall.
Right.
Do you know what critics said at all about it? Like, was there any glimmer?
Hated.
Okay,
It was hated.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not good.
Yeah, no, I did do a little bit of research on that, and yeah, I mean, you got your big, your big dogs that kind of talked about it at the time. Ebert gave it 1 out of 4 stars, and he said that
Did he get one though?
He got 1. I don't think he gives 0. I don't think he does that. But Joe's Apartment would be a very bad comedy even without the roaches, but it would not be a disgusting one. No, wait, I take that back. Even without the roaches, we would still have the subplot involving the pink disinfectant urinal cakes.
Oh, we haven't mentioned how
the Big Lebowski.
The Big
Why did
Lebowski.
we were just
the
talking about
dude is
cameos,
in
and we not
this.
talk about
Yeah.
the fact that the Big Lebowski is in this movie, or Santa Claus, if
Yeah.
you prefer, which I
I
do.
do.
I do. I love
No, I
the
prefer
Santa
the Big Lebowski.
I
But I,
prefer
love
the,
him as
I,
Santa
I was
Claus.
gonna say I love him as Santa Claus.
That was one scene that I kind of do think his scene, the Big Lebowski scene, that kind of summed up this movie for me a little bit. Where it's like when he was talking about Joe's mom, and they kept cutting to him like as time was
Right.
expanding, and he kept having like you could tell those are probably like improv moments,
Right.
But none of them were really funny. They
Right.
were like almost censored. Where like nowadays those would be so over the top
Yeah.
that you would either just be like blushing or just like cracking up.
Well, and it's also funny because I feel like they edited them all in because it's like, well, we don't want this movie to be, 78 minutes long. We need 80 minutes. Can we at least hit 80 minutes? And
Yeah.
it's like, so just use all 3 then. And it's just
Yeah.
because it's like
They're
they just felt very jolted together, like
Yeah.
kind of bolted together.
And he was
just
acting like the clock was moving behind him, so it was like
Right.
showing like hours were passing. But it was like it would be something nowadays where you would really push the envelope with what he's asking about Joe's mom. But he was like, "Hey, does your mom still like dancing?" I'm like,
right.
what?
Does she still wear her hair in that sexy way?
Yeah.
We're like,
Right, where-
what?
Yeah, where you would be talking about like, well, I don't want to say this. Nowadays,
Does
you
your
would just
mom
be saying,
have huge knockers?
yeah,
still?
like does she? Yeah, does she shave still? Or whatever, I mean, whatever. But like it would be, you would really push the envelope there nowadays, and I was like, oh, this movie had a chance right here to kind of do something, and it's kind of just throwing softballs instead of fastballs.
Yeah. No, and so again, like it's not necessarily surprising that it bombed, and from But I do feel like there is a bit of a cult following for this movie, which you can also kind of probably see as well.
Yeah.
I mean, again, with that, there's a bit of nostalgia for it. I could see why.
Yeah, we had it. We were talking about it
Right,
30
that's
years
why
later,
right,
on
that's
the dot.
almost on the dot. That's why we're watching this movie, is because we had some nostalgia for this movie, and I'm sure that there is still some nostalgia out there for this movie. In fact, I know there is. I see people talking about it, every so often on different, movie forums and stuff like that, where this movie does get brought up, and it is typically what we are saying, where it's like it's not a great movie, but I just have really fond memories of it. I thought the Roach parts were really funny, or I think the songs, the Roach songs are fun, that kind of stuff. So I think that there are definitely elements of this movie that still like connect with people. It's just it feels so, I guess, I don't want to say rushed, thrown together, but it kind of does. Like, or it's just like, again, what is it from the Lord of the Rings? Like, you feel like jelly spread over too much bread. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
like
thin.
Right, it's so thin. It's just it should have stayed a short, probably, in that regard.
And this was only 80 minutes, so it was short, but it still felt too long. Well, I'm going to answer it, Rob. I'm going to put my final critique out here for Joe's Apartment. We're looking back at a movie that we kind of remembered fondly. We're going to talk about if it held up. And to me, probably pretty clear, I don't think this movie holds up, which is funny because I do kind of, what we kind of discussed in this convo is like, I do think it was successful at maybe what it was trying to do, like partially successful, but not successful at anything that would hold up or like, have it be a good movie over the course of time. So like, I do think the graphics were good. I think they tried to make a movie that was heavy into CGI. Obviously, you're starring CGI cockroaches, like that's what they were going for, and I think they were successful doing it. I think the cockroaches look fine. Like I said, they're just not impressive to this day, and I do think they were trying to make a movie for their target audience. And maybe they tried too hard. I don't know. But I do think like there is a lot of stuff that is poignant to their target audience. So you can see that mattered to them and they did put the effort to do that. But it's just stuff that as you look back at it now, it just doesn't hold up. And to me, it's just not a movie. Like Joe has no arc. I always kind of say on this podcast, I need my main character to go through something and I want to go through it with him. And Joe didn't really have anything to go through. A lot of the comedy did seem forced. There was some of that funny stuff, but Rob, we had three different people on three different occasions fall down the flight of stairs in Joe's apartment. Like, the old lady fell down the stairs.
Comedy happens in threes, so.
You're right. But so does torture, I think. So that was rough. I was like, all right, the director's in love with pushing people down these stairs.
Yeah.
He hates these stairs. But yeah, so it's just, the comedy was kind of flat for the most part. There's glimmers of good stuff in there. There's pieces, if you're looking for it hard enough, you can see it. But it's not a big enough part of the movie for me to say it holds up. What about
fair. You? No, I think that's absolutely fair. I think everything you said is absolutely spot on. I think that again, as you kind of said, there's glimmers of stuff, and I think I've said it too. Like there's very interesting stuff that they tried to do with this movie. I think some of the one thing we didn't talk about that I thought was really fun was like the public access station, the cockroach public access station.
Oh yeah,
like some of that kind of stuff. It's like they were able to find these kernel nuggets of humor, but it's almost in some ways almost felt like Robot Chicken, where it's like I've got this really short idea. It's good for about 5 to 10 seconds, and then we're moving on. You know what I mean? And I think that can work, but you're right. Like it needs that real overarching narrative, and those things that just kind of be the embellishments on a narrative that works. And you're right. So when I say this, like, okay, so no, this movie is not good. Like I'm gonna say that, so I'll just jump to that part. No, Joe's Apartment does not hold up. It's not a great movie. However, there were things about this movie that did take me by surprise 30 years later. And like I said, I think the number one thing, and I mentioned it earlier, is the optimism within this movie. I think that that's not to be understated, because I feel like this generation that this movie was geared to, the audience that this movie was geared to, is typically seen as kind of that nihilistic kind of audience that just they're being seen as lazy, or they don't care. I think the world sucks, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's and there's never gonna be anything light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that there's an optimism to this movie that I feel like goes maybe a little under the radar and underappreciated because of that. I think some of the performances are actually not terrible. I think Megan Ward as Lily is kind of fun. Again, she's the only one really with an arc. I really loved her in Encino Man. She's in that movie PCU. I don't know if you remember that movie.
Kinda.
With Jeremy Piven and
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
young
Yeah.
John Favreau. And she's also in Freaked, which I don't know if you've ever seen Freaked.
I
It
have
was directed
not.
by Alex Winter of Bill and Ted fame. Have you
I
ever
have
seen
not.
that? That's okay. That's interesting. I'm going to keep that in mind.
Oh, boy.
So I think that she, in all honesty, if I had to say somebody carries the movie, I'm probably going to say she does.
Sure.
Because I think, again, having at least somewhat of a cohesive arc kind of helps just kind of prop this movie up
Yeah.
like it's supposed to.
Makes her stand out for sure.
Right, exactly. But does it save the movie? No,
No.
absolutely not. Like I said, I think that while there are definitely some stuff that, like I said, kind of took me by surprise, and I think I still kind of had somewhat fun with. I think in the end, yeah, you're completely right. This movie doesn't hold up, but if you enjoy it, I don't necessarily not understand why you might
For
still
sure.
enjoy it.
For sure. All right, Rob, well, I think we can get out of Joe's apartment fairly clean if we do
Nobody
it right
leaves
now.
Joe's clean. Nobody leaves it clean.
We need people to like, subscribe, and review this podcast, or I'm going to make Rob eat a cockroach.
Oh, boy.
You eat the cockroach.
I'm not going to eat the cockroach.
Please, if you leave us a 5-star review, we're going to read it live on air someday, so that would be cool. And like I said, like and subscribe. Don't forget, you guys can also email us at carrayrob@gmail.com or reach out to us on Blue Sky CarRayRob if you want to.
Absolutely. You can now find us on Facebook and Instagram. By all means, go give us a follow on both of those platforms. See all the fun things we're doing over there. If there is a comment section on whatever platform you're listening to us on, by all means, let us know what you thought of Joe's apartment. Did it still hold up for you? Does it hold a special place in your heart? We would love to know.
And tell me why.
And tell Ray why, because he just can't understand it. We will be back next week with a brand new episode of Say Hello to My Little Film, and it is back to me, and I've got something pretty fun for Ray.
It's a good follow-up to Singing in the Rain?
It is. It's a good follow-up. It's a little different. It's definitely different from Singing in the Rain, but I don't think I'm going to push you this month.
Good.
But we're going to have to see.
I'm not really in the mood to be pushed.
Okay.
Right now.
Fair. You never are.
That's true. That's something that's true about me.
That's true. But then we will be back in 2 weeks with a brand new episode of A Copy of a Copy, where Ray and I are doing something we've never done before by watching an original and a remake by the same director.
Mr. Hitchcock.
Absolutely. Mr. Alfred Hitchcock and his two The Men Who Knew Too Much. One starring Jimmy Stewart and the other starring Peter Lorre.
I haven't seen either of those.
Yeah, I've seen the Jimmy Stewart one, but I will admit I have never seen the one with Peter Lorre, so I am very excited to be doing that episode. And then we will be back next month with a brand new episode of Hello Movies, My Old Friend, where Ray and I have decided it is back to school time, so we are going to revisit the 1994 comedy adventure film North.
Starring Elijah Wood. Bruce
Wood.
Willis.
Yep. Bruce
and a
Willis.
list of others.
A list of other people. Crazy amounts of people. And it is and directed by the late, great Rob Reiner.
So it must be good.
It must be good. So we're very hopeful. It's been a long time since either one of us have seen this movie, but I love Elijah Wood. So I'm very excited to kind of revisit this childhood actor. Right, exactly. So I'm very excited to revisit this movie. But you are not going to want to miss it. But until then, this is Car Ray Rob.
Where I'm Ray.
And I'm Rob. And remember, be defined by the films you love, not the ones you hate. Hello, movies. Hello, movies. Hello, movies. My old